play you, or Andrea is going to play you now, two absolutely fantastic melodies. And they are melodies, the first one was actually written for the violin, and the second one was written for the cello. Both of the instruments, it's very easy, well not easy is not the right word, but it's not a big physical strain to make a beautiful note last a long time because you have the bow and you can do this. On a woodwind instrument, of course, it's a nightmare because you have to have the control and the breathing. I'm just telling you that to make you aware of what we're about to hear. Andrea's going to play two wonderful pieces, the first of which is called Meditation, and it comes from an opera called Thais. You've heard it many times played on the violin. The story of the opera, some of the stories of these operas are absolutely crazy, but what happens here is apparently it features a monk in Egypt who falls in love with a beautiful courtesan, and he tries to convert her to Christianity, and she rejects him. And then she has second thoughts, and in the opera, the piece of music where she's thinking about whether she should have rejected him and perhaps have converted to Christianity, they have her just sitting there silently meditating. And while she meditates on these things, they play this wonderful melody, and it's called the Meditation. So you can think what it's all about when you hear it. And then we're going to follow that by playing you a piece by Saint-saens, which comes from the Carnival of the Animals, and it's called the Swan. Enough about that really, except a very interesting thing about the Carnival of the Animals. Saint-saens wrote it late in life, and it wasn't really about animals at all. The animals in the Carnival of the Animals are actually the critics. He'd had a very tough time with the critics, and he went to Switzerland, he wrote this, and he was depicting the different critics. Now I don't know who the Swan is, and I certainly don't know who the ass is and the rest of them is. He has hyenas too. So and he wrote it for private performance. And they just had, I think, 2 performances in his lifetime, and he forbade it to be played in public. Except, I don't know why, because it's an absolute masterpiece, the Carnival of the Animals, but the one piece he would permit to be played in public was the Swan. And Andrea now will play. So first of all, we have the courtesan meditating on whether she will convert to Christianity, which, by the way, she did, thanks to the beautiful music. And then we'll have the lovely, graceful Swan swimming. Andrea, I'm going to tell you a story against myself. When I was 11, I went to the Royal College for a piano lesson, and I went to my piano lesson with my new piano teacher, and I was determined to impress him. And I started playing this piece, throwing my head around and my arms around. And I'd been going about a minute when he stopped me, and he said, "I know your problem." You know what children do when they're stuck? I didn't know how to react. I just looked at him in that rather blank way. And he said, "Your problem is you want to play faster and louder than anybody else." Well, it was true, but I didn't realize it was a problem. So he said, "Let me tell you something. In this building, i.e. the Royal College of Music, we are training artists. We're not training people to play faster and louder than anyone else, because we can train a lot of people doing it. to do it. We are training artists, and the great artist is the one who can play quiet, who can play with more expression, and who can play with more feeling. And Andrea, you just proved it in spades. One more piece for you. Actually, it doesn't show the artistic side so much, it shows the virtuoso side so much. Let me just put this in perspective. Before the days of radio and records and all the ways we have now of hearing our music, think about it. How did you get to hear what was popular? If you lived in a big city, you could go to the opera, you would know what they were doing, or you could go to the big concert halls. But in the smaller places, with transport so difficult, you were completely cut off. And what they did was relied on the visiting solo instrumentalist, perhaps pianist, violinist, maybe even a flute player. But flute players, as you may know, are very, very rare. Generally a pianist or a violinist to come and at the end of their concerts to play them something that was currently popular in town, something from one of the operas. And the great virtuosos used to use this not just as a chance to play what was popular. For example, Liszt's arrangements of Rigoletto and some of the Mozart's operas, they are stunning. But they also used them, these virtuosos, to show off, to show what they could do, that they could play faster and louder than anyone else. In other words, my sort of thing. And this was a tradition at the end of concerts. Now, of course, it got to the point when this wasn't necessary anymore. But the virtuosos, being what virtuosos are, they weren't going to let a good opportunity go, and they would still occasionally include in their programs an arrangement of an opera which had all the tricks with it. And the best example of our current generation, or rather the generation that's just gone, is the pianist Vladimir Horowitz, who many of you will have heard, who often used to play and close his concerts with his own arrangement of Carmen. I wonder if any of you heard it. But yes, it was stunning, and the place would go wild afterwards. Now, the interesting thing is, there was a flute player who decided, he didn't decide he'd outdo Horowitz, but because Horowitz wasn't alive at the time, but he also did an arrangement of Carmen for the flute. And just as Horowitz's arrangement for the piano is well nigh impossible, so is this for the flute. I just thought I would make you feel comfortable before you play. I think I said enough. To close the concert, Andrea is going to play the Fantasy Brillianti on themes from Bizet's opera Carmen. Right. Have I forgotten something?
Yeah. Carmen was Spanish. Like this.
Thank you.